Hello, security pros. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on today's ESA webinar, ClareVision, built for everyday security jobs. Today, we will discuss the unique benefits of ClareVision, an NDAA compliant video surveillance solution that delivers dealers a cost-effective line of cameras and NVRs that fit their unique business and needs. I'm Riley Hogendorn, and I'll be facilitating our discussion today. Before we dive in with Brett and Jerry, our experts today from ClareVision, I'd like to provide some tips for those of you joining us on your first ESA webinar. First of all, welcome. ESA, or the Electronic Security Association, is the largest and longest standing association serving the pro-installed electronic security and life safety industry. Our members are integrators, dealers, monitoring centers, and even manufacturers and service providers in the space. We are the voice of the electronic security and life safety industry. If your company is a member of the association, thank you. We hope you're taking advantage of your ESA benefits to leverage growth and connections for your team. If your company is not yet an ESA member, check us out. You'd be surprised at the power of membership. Get a feel for all of the ESA benefits, including savings on business insurance, training, sales team coaching, certifications that satisfy state licensing, and more at esaweb.org. All attendees will be muted for the duration of this session, but that does not mean we don't want to hear from you. If a question or comment comes to mind at any point, click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen and we'll pose them to our experts today. There's no need to save those questions until the end of today's presentation. We'll be recording today's webinar so you can rewatch the on-demand session and share it with your colleagues. We at ESA realize your time is valuable and we appreciate you spending some of that time with us today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brett and Jerry. Brett leads the vision of Clare Controls. He is also co-founder or founder of the award-winning Tempest Pro Services, the largest integrator of home audio and video systems on the west coast of Florida. Brett holds a master's degrees, multiple, in business and electrical engineering from Cornell University and was the youngest consultant ever hired by Touche Ross Management in Detroit, Michigan. He co-founded Cheetah Technologies, a developer and manufacturer of large-scale telecommunications, test and measurement systems. Jerry has been a key player with the Clare Controls team for nearly 10 years. He comes with an extensive networking background with previous experience at Teltronics and Vertical Communications. His current role at Clare as Senior Sales Engineer is a perfect match for his skill set and background, specializing in pre/post sales support, and all aspects of home automation. Jerry has played a major role in the success of Clare. Brett and Jerry, let's dive in.
Thank you very much for the introduction. We're going to break this into two sections. One is a PowerPoint presentation, and then Jerry's going to take over and we're going to do a live demonstration of an actual system that's operating. We do get a lot of questions during these, and during the presentation, Jerry will probably be answering most of the questions. When Jerry's doing his demo, I'll take over from there. But feel free to ask questions at any time. If I see something that is likely a broad question that everybody would like to know, I'll address it in the middle of the presentation. So we'll just kind of get going. We're going to take you through an introduction, take you through the performance, the setup configuration, the performance of product line. We'll show you some of the things that make the product unique and different from anything else on the market, we believe. The performance of the product, it really does stand out, and it's the number one thing we get as a compliment back from the dealers when they see it is, I've never seen image quality like that and a camera at that price point. So you'll see that in the presentation today. So basically what we did is we came up with a product line and said, you know, there's a couple of very large manufacturers that kind of set price points in the market. And what we really need to do is we need to give the dealers a really comprehensive product line that's cost effective, that can let you compete against the DIY play that your customers are really coming at you with. So it is that's really more of a resi focus. Small SMB is also applicable. So you've got competitors right now that go by the name of Nest and others. And so we're trying to give you a product line that's going to give you the ability, some of the feature sets of those products in terms of AI, but also give you price points that make you competitive and allow you to make margin, which is not easy to do on those branded products. So what we did is we basically have two series products. The value series is a product line in a turret and a bullet format, 2 and 4 megapixel. It starts at about $69 dealer price. In everything up to the 4 megapixel fixed lens cameras, we embed SD cards. So if you want to do a quick install and you want to just connect it back to the customer's network, to do a quick configuration, add it to a mobile app and be done, you can do that without adding an NVR. So 1 and 2 camera installs, that's kind of common to try to approach it that way. And of course, we also have NVRs for larger installs. The Performance Series product is a product that is quite powerful. The #1 moving SKU in our product line is the turret, the fixed lens turret in the image on the right. The bodies of these cameras are all the same, but the 4 megapixel fixed lens turret is the #1 moving SKU because of the artificial intelligence built into it. And we'll get into that in a moment. But this series does have AI built into it, including right now we've released person detection. We'll have car detection released into the cameras shortly. And I'll stop here to say that one of the advantages is we really do rely on artificial intelligence at the edge as opposed to the cloud. So there are no monthly fees. Now, that does not mean that you cannot charge a monthly fee. You can do whatever you like. It just means we're not charging you a monthly fee. So we're releasing a major release here in the next week or two. And those people that have these cameras are going to receive all the new features at no cost. And that's the way we will keep the product line as far down the road as we possibly can. So that's where we are. It's a no monthly fee service. And that's why we do stick the SD cards in there, so that if you wanted to have a solution set for a single or 2 cameras, don't want to put an NVR in, don't want to deal with monthly fees, this is the right solution. We'll get into the Performance Series in just a bit. There's also a varifocal in the Performance Series, and we added dome cameras to the Performance Series as well. All the cameras are currently available in black or white, and the black is more of a titanium looking color, not a jet black color. So the key differentiators, it's the user experience, and we'll go through how it integrates with our platform in a bit, but the user experience is very simple. It's not intended to be a NVR-ish kind of experience. It's really intended to be in the limelight of something like a Nest experience. So it's very simple. It's very, very easy to set up for the user. You can scale this. We have NVRs that take you from 4 channels all the way to 25 channels. And the capabilities as we get into the Performance Series are quite extensive. So we'll get into that. And it's certified. Everything's ETL certified and NDAA compliant. Standalone installation, as I said, you can, the fixed lens cameras up to 4 megapixel come with a 32 gig SD card. This 2 megapixels come with a 16 gig SD card. They're really geared around installing with either the smart features or the motion features turned on and recording events as opposed to full-time video. If you're going to record full-time video, you really do need to go to an NVR. The cameras will accept a SD card up to 512 gigabytes, which is quite large. There are 128 gigabyte SD cards available in the Snap Store from us that are high endurance cards that are designed for camera usage as opposed to telephones and things of that nature. When you start putting us into an ecosystem, it starts to look a little bit like this. The NVR obviously can communicate with the ClareVision app, and we'll talk about how that ties out to our Clare Home application. It will integrate into the Clare One panel. You can see video on the Clare One panel. You can get events into the Clare One panel. You can process based on events. We also have a fairly robust driver for Control 4. You can get snapshots. You can get live video. And so you can integrate this into Control4. You can get events into Control4 and create actions and rules in Control4 based on events happening in the ClareVision system, whether it's a standalone or an NVR-based system. We are open and flexible with regard to the cameras that we communicate with. We obviously communicate to our cameras. We use a private protocol to do that. And then the others, such as Luma, Hikvision, and others, we go through OnVIF. There's an automatic discovery tool built into the product where you can just click find cameras. It will scan the local area network looking for cameras that are broadcasting OnVIF or our protocol and give you the option to attach those to the NVR. So it's quite flexible in both directions. And so the drivers that are available for the NVR do sort of insulate the fact that it might be it could be a Dahua OnVIF camera, a Luma camera, a Hikvision camera, one of our legacy cameras. It sort of masks all that and presents one unified driver to the Control4 environment as well as ours. We do put a lot of effort into edge-based features, and I'll go through these in some detail here in a minute. We have you'll see at the end of the presentation. The question was, can we get an API for these? The cameras are all OnVIF, and we'll get into the NVR in a moment. The easiest way to integrate to these cameras, if they're on an NVR, is to actually use the virtual host and tunnel through the NVR to the camera directly using an OnVIF driver. So we've had guys, we never wrote a driver for Elan, for example, but we've had guys in Canada integrate this into Elan and we didn't even know what happened. So they just use the OnVIF driver. I'm sorry, so there's local onboard storage. In the value series, we have some pretty nice advanced motion detection. The release we're doing shortly, we put about 3 months worth of work into motion detection to try to make it a very usable feature in the product. And then in the case of the performance series, the motion detection actually uses what's called a neural onboard coprocessor. It's essentially an artificial intelligence coprocessor. So it uses it for both the motion detection and the human detection, car detection, things like that are done by this machine learning neural coprocessor. It's built on board. So in any event, we have motion detection, we have line crossing, we have in the smart cameras, we have line crossing, we have people gathering, we have intrusion detection. All of these things are built into the camera right at the edge and at no cost monthly. When you're connecting to the cameras, we use a P2P architecture. So if you're connecting to a camera, you're connecting to the NVR or the camera, you're going through our P2P cloud. Our P2P cloud is restricted to United States servers. We're very particular about security. We're very particular about access to cloud, any form of access to the cameras, whether it's local or via the cloud. We recently enhanced the encryption between the cameras and the mobile application. So with every release, we look for things we can do to tighten down the camera security, whether it's over the cloud or it's local. So this is the methodology we use to gain access. If you're going to go to a Luma camera or a Hikvision camera or a other branded camera, you would connect it to the NVR. The NVR would put the video data and the connection to that camera on our P2P cloud. So it sort of transcodes it and puts it up on the cloud for you. We do not connect directly to third-party cameras. We do connect to our cameras. Our cameras do have P2P built into them, so you can connect to them directly, or you can connect them to an NVR. I'll go through this relatively quickly because it's relatively boring. Camera setup is, you can scan the network, you can look for the camera. We do recommend, there's two ways to do this. You can look for the cameras using the mobile app and it'll discover the cameras automatically. You enter the standard username and password. The password is the first 6 digits of the UUID. You can go through and do that and activate a camera using the mobile app and never log into the web UI. We don't recommend that. We recommend you log into the web UI and you set the camera up and use the features that are available within the camera web UI. We do not put advanced settings capabilities into the mobile application. Some of that's by design, some of that is simply time. At some point we'll put some of them in there, but I'm an integrator by experience and I know my customers can mess up anything that I give them. They'll dutifully kind of screw it up on me. So we're going to be a little bit careful about what we expose to the end user. So we do recommend you go into the web UI to set up the cameras, traditional camera, password changes, and you can go in and customize all your settings, your recordings, set up motion zones, regions of interest, they're all available in the web UI. Our web UIs across all the cameras are absolutely positively identical. I am familiar with the big H and the fact that when you get one camera, the web UI is slightly different than another. The standards are different. The defaults are different. We are very, very particular about keeping the defaults absolutely identical in every camera and keeping the web user interface absolutely identical in every camera. And so we are, and again, I'm just after trying to reduce your training time. And this is just an example of the web UI. The version, the NVRs that are shipping today are all Chrome compatible. The firmware update to the camera line will be going out starting next week, and it will make the cameras all Chrome compatible. So we will be dropping the beloved Internet Explorer. So when we start getting into some of the smart settings, you can set up intelligent detection based on human body detection. You can set up regional intrusion. I've been doing this a long time with cameras, and I've seen a lot of this stuff that just flat doesn't work. The people detection, the person detection algorithms in these cameras are very powerful, and they really do work. And so when you're using performance series cameras, we actually recommend that you maybe shy away from the motion detection unless you need to pick up a car or a dog or an animal. If you're really looking at the backyard and you're interested in somebody intruding into the backyard of a home, use the person detection. It absolutely works, and it makes the notifications useful. When you don't do that and you kind of spam people, they just turn off the event push notifications. Line crossing, traditional. Loiter is a dwell time type detection. There is dwell time based on an intrusion, but loiter is really designed for somebody just hanging out around. That's my marketing guy's car. But anyway, hanging out around a car. And then there's actual people gather. This is more of a commercial application, and it will detect the density of people and give you a push notification when the density of the human beings in an area exceed a certain threshold. So those are all built into the Performance Series cameras. It's all free, and we update them. We're updating the Performance Series cameras next week with new features in the AI category. We will do it again at the end of the year, and we'll be adding cars and packages as we go forward. Again, no monthly fees. I'll skip through this quickly because Jerry's going to give you a demo anyway, but the NVR setup again, go to the NVRs. What we've done with the NVR is about 3 weeks ago, we released firmware. All the NVRs now have what are called a virtual host built into them. They're all plug and play. So for example, if you connect a camera to one of our cameras to our NVR, it will auto discover the camera. It will auto assign an IP address. It will automatically set the username and password. There's nothing for you to do. It'll appear on the screen. You can control all of the configuration settings that you need to on smart events or motion events directly from the NVR. The only reason to tunnel into the NVR, into the virtual host to get to the camera directly is to update the firmware of the camera. Other than that, there is no reason to do that. That's all new in the last 30 days. So the setup time of an NVR got cut by 75% with the addition of the automated attachment features. Again, it auto assigns the IP, it auto discovers the product, it auto assigns the IP address, it auto assigns the user ID and the password, and all user settings are available from the NVR at this point. And this is an example of the various settings that are available, privacy masks, all of those things are available. We're going to get into storage in a minute. The storage is in the NVR is 1 terabyte in the 4-channel, 2 in the 8 and 4 in the 16 channel. We'll talk about the NVRs more in a moment. They're a little unique. I think everybody on the phone has probably run into the dreaded 5th camera ad on a job when you've got or the 9th camera on a 8-channel NVR. We license our NVRs to substantially higher channel count than we do have than when you have physical ports. So our 4-channel NVR is technically a 4-port NVR with 9 channels. So there's 5 virtual channels available. The 8-channel NVR has 8 physical ports and 8 virtual channels for a total of 16. And the 16 is 16 physical channels and 25 total channels. Available or 9 additional virtual. So they're very flexible in that regard, and the storage is pretty generous on each of the NVRs. There is a cloud-based storage. We're just getting started with this. This is really just for snapshots, so I'm gonna be very, very clear about that. This is not full video motion to your Google Drive. This is snapshot storage. All the settings in the NVR, you're going to, in 90% of all installs now are just going to use the P2P settings. You're not going to use DNS or port forwarding or any of the above. You can set up FTP to store video to the FTP site, but that gets into some more advanced commercial applications. Most people are just going to take our standards. We spent almost a month a while back really just tuning all of the standard settings inside these NVRs for a typical small business or residential installation. You should not need to change anything except the actual, if you want a privacy zone or a motion detection setting, things that create events, you're going to want to tune that to the job. But the frame rates and everything else have all been set in advance to the optimal settings for typical small installs for small business or residential. Skip forward to this. So the 3 forms of storage, just to cover it, is the micro SD card is built into every fixed lens camera, 4 megapixel and down. Turn it around. We do not put it in varifocal cameras, and we don't put them in 8 megapixel cameras, the 4K cameras. The thought is the varifocals are most likely going to be attached to an NVR anyway. And the 4K cameras, we were just trying to keep the costs in line with expectations from our dealers. I get asked all the time, can I store to the SD card and the NVR? And the answer is yes. You could store smart events to the SD card or motion events to the SD card. And on the NVR, you could store motion, smart, and full-time record. So you can essentially use the SD card on the camera as a backup for important events that may be happening. Let's say there was a network outage or the NVR were damaged in some way. The camera based on full-time record, motion events, alarm input. There's contact IOs on the back of the NVR, so you could have a door open event, trigger a contact IO, and trigger trigger a record on a channel. So you have alarm events, full-time record, motion events, or smart events, and you can record any or all of those on an NVR. And then, of course, I mentioned you have they're very simple. You have snapshots that you can store to Dropbox or to your Google Drive. Those are the storage options. Camera setup, we're going to walk through. This is the application. It literally takes about 3 minutes to set this up. So you tap on the plus sign. It asks you if you're looking for a camera or an NVR. If the device is on the local network, it will go and scan the network and find the network. Those are the UUIDs and the IP addresses of the devices that you just found on the network. You're going to tap that camera, you're going to enter the password, and it's on the network. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now, one of the more powerful things of this little system is you can actually select and add a camera that's on a remote network. So if you're troubleshooting a customer site, for example, they can send you a snapshot of the QR code. I'll show you where that is. And you can bring that into your system. You can scan the QR code, enter the username and password, and you're online. So what we just walked you through on the top is I was in I'm on the local area network and I added that camera. I added the camera below, which is a remote house, by just scanning. Somebody emailed me the QR code. I scanned it, entered the user ID and password, and I'm on the network. This little button, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse or not, but this little button down here in the lower left corner, if you tap that button will give you the QR code of the camera or the NVR. So it is quite literally that simple to add remote systems. We keep the camera settings pretty simple. You can turn on and off notifications by camera. So if you've got a camera and it's pointing to the pool area and you're having a pool party, you probably don't want to get blown up by motion events. You can turn off the notifications for that particular camera and turn them back on when you want to resume receiving notifications. So when we talk about the larger ecosystem, we have the cameras talking to our P2P cloud. When we start using our panel, I got to move this just 1 second. Can't see what I'm doing here. Yeah, so there's a local connection to the P2P cloud to the video events. When you use it with the Clare Home panel, if anybody is familiar with it, the Clare Home panel actually connects to the camera directly over the local area network in the home. It does not go over P2P. It makes a direct connect to the camera and uses the same on-BIF calls that Control4, Elan, and others use to pull video, snapshots, and events from the camera for presentation on the screen and for processing smart rules and events of that, and events and rules within the panel. The Clare Home app will show, as you can see there, it'll show a video snapshot. If the ClareVision app's not around, it's going to show live video. The Clare One panel will show snapshots as well as live video. And this is when you're connecting this all together, this is what's actually happening. Our mobile applications are talking to our cloud, which is talking to our panel, and it's a local connect. So that local connect will always be there. It will always execute rules, regardless of if the P2P cloud is having troubles. We really don't have any troubles with it, but it will always be there. The P2P cloud is really to pass live streaming video to ClareVision. And then the two apps we use deep linking to connect the two apps together the way Facebook does with Facebook and Messenger. So we create a very harmonized single app experience when you have the two applications on a particular phone in a home, or if you're just selling a video app, they have a video job, they can go with just video. So it's kind of flexible on that regard. The P2P cloud is used just really because of speed. Peer-to-peer is the fastest way to move video between a camera and a mobile application. This is what deep linking looks like. So when you're in the Clare Home app and you tap a icon, it takes you directly into that camera on the ClareVision app for purposes of live view, looking at event history, interacting with the camera in any way. And in this app, you can look at events and event history. You can filter event history and things of that nature. There's an OTA service. You can get to the OTA service. Your consumer will be able to download if they have a camera or two on site. They'll get a notification in the app that there's a firmware update available. They can tap on that firmware update available, and it will automatically download it to the camera and let them know when it's complete. It's approximately 3 minutes to do that. The same thing exists for the NVR. There is also in the firmware we're pushing out right now an OTA service built into the web UI. So as you're working when your technicians are working, you're on the job site, you're logged into that web UI, you want to check in that web UI if there's a firmware update. In that web UI under the maintenance menu, there is a new feature, which is check for updates. It will come back and tell you if there is one. You hit accept, and the NVR or camera will immediately begin downloading the firmware update. That was a broadly asked feature, is to make updates easier for us to deal with. We will be working with SnapAV to embed Oversee into the cameras and the NVRs in the near future. There is a driver for Control 4 that's available on the Snap Store or on Control 4 as well. You can view snapshots, you can view live view, and you can accept events. You can create rules based on human body, line, cross, intrusion. People got any one of those rules. You can create any one of those event types. You can create a rule within Control 4 to behave one way or another, and it works quite well. We've discussed the NVR. The NVRs are there's 3 of them. There is a virtual host built into it. You can get to the cameras. You can update the firmware. You can use a camera driver with a port number of the virtual host. So the ports start with 10,001 through 10,016 or 10,025. So if you put the IP address and the port number into, say, the Control 4 driver, you will gain access to a camera that is connected directly to the ports of a NVR. And we recommend that. We do have an NVR driver. We do recommend the guys that are using Control 4 to use the camera driver through the NVR. You'll get a lot more robust data. You'll be able to create really cool rules and things like that by tunneling in and talking to the camera using OnVIF. Oversee Pro, the systems are now compatible with Oversee Pro. And for example, an Oversee Pro hub or an Oversee Pro enabled Arachnus router. And you can literally scan the home network. It'll see the NVR of the camera. You can click on it. It'll scan and figure that it'll see port 80 is there. You click on connect, and you can, if you know the username and password, you can literally from anywhere in the world connect to the camera, make a configuration change for your customer, and leave. For dealers that are familiar with Oversee, what I strongly recommend, when you see the price points of these NVRs, you'll see why I'm saying this. Until we have Oversee Pro embedded in the NVR, I would strongly recommend you put an Oversee Pro hub on a job with the NVR. It will one truck roll, and you've paid for the hub. They're that cost effective, and they're quite powerful. So, our NVRs start in the low 200s, low mid 300s for the 8-channel. They're very cost effective, and so I do recommend you put an Oversee Pro hub by for remote maintenance and management. So what we did next is this is what the very first thing that somebody says when they see the cameras for the first time is, oh my God, I've never seen a picture like that. So, and it is absolutely noticeable. We spent when we developed these cameras with the manufacturer, we spent almost 3 months doing nothing but tuning video performance. We were very, very particular about the quality of the video. And when you see one of these cameras live, you will see it immediately. Everybody does. So what we did is we did a little test, and we said, let's take some consumer cameras. Let's take one of the big 2 or 3 manufacturers that we all know about, and let's see what the image quality actually looks like. So what we did is we said, hey, over here, we've got a Ring 2-megapixel outdoor camera. This is our $69 value series 2-megapixel camera right here. Immediately, you can see the performance difference. That coloring that Ring camera is producing isn't even close to the real color of what's out there, and you can see the clarity down here in the gravel and whatnot there's a tremendous difference. Here's a Nest compare. The Nest coloring is just terrible. And there's the compare to our value series 4-megapixel. Here is a competitor 2-megapixel turret. There's a performance series 4. Here's a competitor's 8-megapixel. And this is one of the large 3 manufacturers of cameras in the world up here. And then that's our 8-megapixel. When I tell you it's immediately noticeable, it is. These are our performance series cameras are Sony Starbus sensors. So the nighttime performance of these cameras is absolutely amazing, which I'll show you here. So this is, and I do this with these consumer cameras because this is what you deal with in the field a lot with people that, they use the brand of Nest or Ring or whatever. The actual video performance of the highly branded consumer products is quite poor. And so here's an example. That's a Ring camera in the evening with the infrared on. It's set exactly the same location as our $69 value series camera. This camera is $200. That camera is $69. Now that's a retail number, of course. This is the Nest camera. That's our value series 4 megapixel. This is the most popular camera in our lineup. This is the 4 megapixel performance series turret. It's performance in the evening when you see in the background, this is all infrared lit. That's, of course, there's a building light back there, but you can see the performance and clarity in that image is quite extraordinary. You can see in here, you start to lose all the detail of the trees. You start to lose some of the detail back here that's available with this camera. Same thing with the 8 megapixel. Look in the background, you start to see images that you just don't see with the competitors' cameras. Here's another way to look at it. We set this down at 0.1 lux, which is sort of a breaking point for some of the infrared capabilities. So there's our performance series 4 and 8, the value, Nest, and a competitor. When you look at Nest and Ring, they're barely visible. In the daytime, same color charts, same location. It's far more the video images. And again, when you get one and you see it, you see the cameras side by side, they're stunning. The performance 4 megapixel camera, the dealer cost is about $109. So it's there's nothing like it at that price point. And you can see over here the competitors' cameras. They're quite good. They're quite clear. The consumer cameras are terrible. These cameras are quite good, but you can check the price points and you'll see from a value perspective, you'll see what we're talking about. There's a close-up of the 2 megapixels cameras. That's a value series. The Ring and Nest cameras are barely perceptible. And these are camera color calibration charts. So here's the lineup in so the value series. You've got your 2 megapixel and 4 megapixel value series cameras. Main difference between those and the performance series is essentially the artificial intelligence and the Sony Starvis sensors. There's other differences, but that's the lion's share of the difference. You will see far more updates to these products in the performance series over time than you will these. There's a lot more horsepower under the hood in those performance series cameras than there is in the value series. So we have more running room in the R&D side to keep driving value out to your customers and adding artificial intelligence features to the products. Like I said, we just added in this release, we in the motion detection area of the camera, as opposed to the smart series section of the camera, we actually added a human filter so that you can do basic motion detection, but filter only on humans. We could never do that in a value series. We're going to be adding car detection shortly to the performance series. So you'll see us continually add, and again, there's no monthly fee to the consumer. Doesn't mean you can't charge a fee. That's up to you. But there is no fee to the customer or to you for these value improvements over time. And you'll see us release about 3 times a year. We'll be releasing firmware updates to the cameras. And again, you'll be seeing more intense updates to the performance series cameras. The NVRs are 4, 8, and 16. I explained this briefly already. We do have virtual ports. And when you scan the local area, when you hit scan or add in the channel section of the NVR, it will scan the local area network and look for anything that's on VIF or anything that is Clare. It'll come up and it'll give you the option to add any one of those cameras up to the listed limit. You can realign those cameras in a channel lineup. You can take the channels that are physically attached. For example, the first 16 channels of the NVR are channels number 1 through 16. Big shocker. You can release those channels to a virtual status if you've only the opportunity to connect a couple cameras to the 16 channel because of the physical layout of the building. You can release those physical ports to the virtual side and connect 22 cameras, 23 cameras to the virtual ports inside the NVR. So they're extremely flexible that way. And I can tell you, I got jammed on more than one job where some customer adds a 5th camera and I've got a 4-channel NVR, and that 5th camera is not $250 or $300. It's $500 or $600. So that's why we did this. I won't go through the details of this other than this is available online. This PowerPoint's being recorded. You can go through this. All of these specifications are available on the Snap AV website. And so they're everything's IP67 rated. They're all ETL certified. And like I said, everything up to 4 megapixel fixed comes with a built-in SD card. After that, you can, with the varifocals and the 8 megapixels, you can add them as you see fit. And as I said before, the performance series, this camera in the upper right corner is way out in front, the mover. And you should expect us to see more additions to the performance series in the form of firmware updates, cool features we're adding, detection methods we're adding. You'll see a lot more of that in the performance series than you will the value series. The performance series starts at around $110 dealer. And there's your 8 megapixel. We do have a set of performance series varifocals. They're 2.7 to 13.5 millimeter. Right now, they're all 4 megapixel. We are coming out with a new set of cameras shortly. I won't talk about them because I get in trouble every time I do that. But so these cameras are available now. If you need a long range infrared reach, that bullet camera in the upper left is a 60-meter IR range. It's by far the longest infrared range in the product lineup. You'll see also that we at Clare, because I used to be a dealer, I strive for utter consistency. So when I say something's a performance series camera and we do, let's say we're going to add vehicle detection, you can assume the performance series camera, if it's got that title, is going to get that vehicle update. You can assume that the web UI on every performance series camera is going to be 98% identical. I hated the variances between, I'll just say it, the Hikvision products with the technicians struggling. One camera, the virtual host is enabled automatically, the next it's not. I've got to put an OnVIF user into this camera. I don't need to do it over there. We don't do those things because they just create training nightmares for dealers. So we strive for really keep these things consistent. There's a lineup of the NVRs. They're all 4K compatible. So what have we been doing? We launched this product line in September. It's been a while, about 4 months ago. And so I've taken quite a personal interest in this. So we've been listening to our customers. We monitor every single Friday. We have a meeting on the week's calls and the feedback we're getting from customers. We have a group, Teams, we use Teams. We have a group team session where everybody who's involved with this camera line sees every question that any one of our phone techs has that they need help with. So to say that we're intimately tied to the feedback that we get, whether it's on social media, it's on the tech support calls, we've done surveys, we hear you. So these are some of the things that we didn't do well, right? We had separate passwords for the cameras and NVRs. When you attach the camera to an NVR you had to go in and set the password manually, and on and on and on. There were lots of feedback. So we really, event playback, our motion detection algorithms were far too sensitive. So the event playback, the event stream that would come back in the form of push notifications was noisy on a good day. So we really listened very carefully, and we began to address those things. And so we released the firmware update for the NVRs a couple of weeks ago, and you'll see the performance series cameras updating starting next week, and the value series shortly thereafter. So here's the releases. We're very tied into security and encryption. So we've enhanced the encryption between the mobile application and the camera itself. We scan the cameras all the time for any kind of calls that may reach outside the country. We watch for that all the time. We have our P2P servers, our push servers are all stateside. So we watch the security side carefully. We watch for open ports on the cameras. So we're very sort of neurotic about that. We massively improved the push notification algorithms inside the cameras. So that's been greatly improved. The setup process for the NVR went from, unfortunately, it was taking techs a couple of hours to set this up. You can set this up with the auto discover, auto set username and password. Click, I can get into any one of the settings of any of the cameras quickly. We cut the setup time for an NVR-based system dramatically. We improved the event scrubber. We now support Chrome. It was Internet Explorer was less than fun. We've enhanced the virtual host for cameras. We added the virtual host back in June, but you could not get through the virtual host with things like drivers, and there were a variety of limitations on the virtual host. The virtual host now supports complete pass-through to the cameras for all purposes, video pass-through, Oversee Pro. You can get access through Oversee Pro. You can go through the virtual host. The Control4 driver supports it, so we massively improved the virtual host. As I mentioned, the NVR sets the camera passwords automatically. We put OTA into the web browser. That was a common ask. We need to be able to get the firmware updated in these cameras more quickly. And we enhanced the smart events generally, and specifically made the setup easier in the NVR. And we've taken away all the obstacles to making the entire system Oversee Pro Hub compatible. So we listen very, very carefully to the feedback. It doesn't always come across friendly, but whatever. And we do take action. It's literally been on the market 4 months, and these all got updated in the last 4 months, and they're going out right now. With that, I'm going to just show this quickly. I'm over time right now, and I need to send this on to Jerry. Our next step is you're going to see some significant improvements and updates to the mobile application. These are just some simple screens. I won't go through them specifically, but you're going to see a lot more live action on the first screen that launches right now. Those are tile views, or snapshots, I should say. Those are all going to go to live views. When you get into the next screen and you're looking at the view of a particular camera, you're going to be able to get to the settings of that camera. You're going to get to the events in that camera. That's kind of this screen right here. So you'll start seeing some heavy improvements to the ClareVision app. This is an important part of our product line, and we're investing heavily in the R&D in this product line. And with that, I'm going to just turn this over to Jerry because this is running long. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Jerry, and you can take over from here.
All right. Thanks, Brett. A couple questions just came in. I didn't get a chance to answer them. One is about floodlight cameras, whether we have any plans to integrate. And there's also one asking about our P2P connection. If you're outside of the country, if you're still able to connect with a camera or NVR, even if you're on a VPN. I'll let you tackle that while I get situated here.
Yes, it's not country specific. Now, what we did do is we had an option to either load balance across the world or restrict the P2P servers to US-based P2P servers, and we chose the latter for security reasons. But it doesn't matter where you are.
So I am going to, I have quite a bit to demo. I know we're getting close short on time, so I'm going to buzz through this pretty quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into a performance series camera here, tool around in there really quick. Then I'm going to jump over to an NVR. We're going to take a look at Oversee. We're going to take a look at the app, and we'll try to get all that in here real quick. So I just shared my screen. Hopefully you guys can see it. This is a performance series camera. I just wanted to get in here to poke around and show you a couple of the features and some of the smart events and how some of the things get set up in here. So this is the live view. Of course, there are a couple different streams that you can use. There's substream and things like that. But what I mostly wanted to point out is in the configuration, these things are very, very simple to set up. You can get in and do simple ordinary events. This would be your typical everyday motion detection that you would find in your value series cameras. This is what you would have in a value series. You get the full screen. You could graph an area. You have your arming schedule to set up your notifications and recordings, things like that. But in the performance series, you have the smart events, and the smart events is where we can change this to. We could do intrusion, line cross, you can do loiter detection and people gathering. Another cool thing about this in the intrusion detection, not only can I just, outline one particular area, maybe this is a busy area, maybe it's a large yard that I'm looking at, you can go in and you can do different areas. So you can do up to 4 areas. I also do want to note, and I don't think it was in the presentation, you can also do all of these at the same time. So you don't have to be able to just pick and say, hey, I want to do intrusion detection for my smart events, you can do all of these at the same time. And the way that you would filter these out, you could do that in your recording schedule, in the NVR or in your regular storage. You can go in here and tell it what kind of recordings you want to record. So you can actually do smart, intelligent recordings, and you'll be able to filter out both in the app and in the live view on the camera NVR and check out those. You'll be able to filter out those events pretty easily. So it's a pretty neat, pretty neat. I'm going to jump right over to the NVR real quick here. Lots of differences, obviously, between the NVR and a standalone camera. Here you've got all of your channels that you can select. I'm just going to grab one of these real quick here. So I've got a bunch of different cameras on this system here. I've got, there's a Hikvision camera. There's a couple of our native cameras. There's older cameras that are just using OnVIF. The point is, you can actually use the NVR as a gateway to connect not only the ClareVision cameras, you can use our older ClareVision Plus, you can use Hikvision, Luma, and the list goes on. As long as you have an OnVIF profile in that camera, this NVR will allow you to configure that camera here. So very simple to do this. This actually has our scanning tool really built right into the NVR itself. So if I go over here to channel, to camera, this will actually go out and scan the network. If I click the add button, and it'll find cameras, even if they're on VIF. And as long as, like I said, you know the port number, the username and password, you'll be able to add those cameras in. You can see here, some of these are already added, but it's just found another on VIF, a couple other on VIF devices. I'm not going to add them now, but you can see, you know, as long as you click edit, add the proper credentials and the port number, you're good to go. While we're in here, we've also added, and if you've noticed, I'm in Edge. I'm not using Internet Explorer anymore, and I do have all of my tabs up here: live view, playback, picture, and configuration. Before this version of the firmware, I was not able to do everything that I can do now in Edge or Chrome. I think Edge is more of a Chromium based, so you can use Edge as well. What I did want to point out, a couple of the new things that we added in the new firmware, like in the users, there's now an area here where you can sync the camera passwords, you know, through the NVR. So what you're doing is you're actually taking the NVR password and passing it to all the connected cameras that are connected to your NVR. Before we didn't have that option, so you would literally have to go camera to camera and sync up your passwords and things. We've also added this online upgrade. You now have the ability to have the NVR go out and check automatically for the updates, or you can just come out here manually and do a check. And this will go out real time and check to see if there's a new version out there. You can see this just popped up in the corner. It said latest version. So this NVR is good to go. You can also do all of your motion events and smart events. There's logic built into the NVR. This will know what cameras are connected if they're performance series, and it'll allow you to create those smart events right from the NVR. How is this helpful? You don't have to jump out to each camera to do those configurations. You can see here, if I go back out to this camera that has some of those, you'll see that the settings match. There's a line detection and there's the intrusion detection. You can see it's the same box you saw on the standalone camera. So, and one last thing I wanted to point out, this also has the virtual host. I know the last time we did a webinar, we didn't have this feature in the NVR. So you can now go out to your cameras if warranted or if needed for some reason. You just tap on the link here. You do have to be local to do this, as this just goes out on a kind of like a self VLAN to open up one of your cameras, and this will go right out to the login screen. So that's a pretty cool feature. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to pull up my phone to pull up the app. And I don't know if that popped up on the screen. I can't see what you guys are seeing. Hopefully you guys can see the phone.
We can.
Great. So what I want to show, I'm going to pop open the app and just quickly show you how easy these things are to add. You can see I have nothing added. I'm just going to hit NVR. I'm going to go to the local network. This is now going to go out and it's going to scan my network. It's going to find the devices that are here. There's a couple cameras and other devices. I'm going to just add this NVR here real quick. I just put in the password and it's put in a device name. Just call it NVR. Tap done. So this is going to add the NVR. This now allows you to go in and edit the channels that you want to view. So I pick these channels here, and this immediately pops and populates all the different cameras that you're viewing. So same as Brett showed, I know in one of the PowerPoint slides, the way that the deep linking feature works in the Clare Home app. So this is right now we're looking at the ClareVision app. I just added the channels to the NVR. If I jump out of here and I open up my Clare Home, which is connected to my Clare One panel, I've added some of those NVR channels just to kind of show you the deep linking feature. So if I tap on one of these, like on the west side of the house here, it immediately opens up. You pretty much can't even tell that it's in a different app. And obviously you go back, you just tap that box up at the top and it'll go right back into the app. So reason we did this, you can now, if you're opening up the camera, you wanted to see archived video or something like that, you can easily bounce between the two apps, pretty seamless. And as you can see, it's pretty fast as well. So the last thing, I know we're running out of time here, I'm going to pop open this guy so you guys can take a look at Oversee. I know somebody had asked the question in the Q&A about Oversee, so I just wanted to show this real quick. Just gonna switch screens. So in Oversee, you do need to add an NVR. You do need to have the hub or device that has the Oversee in it, like an Arachnus router, switch, whatnot. But you can see I've added the NVR. Once this opens up, you do now have the ability to tap over here and you can connect to the NVR. I could be anywhere, right? I could be anywhere that has an internet connection. I just happen to be where the NVR is now, but this will connect from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. You can also do this through the app. I don't know if you'll get video through the app, but I know that you can get video through this interface. So someone was asking what capabilities we have through this, and you can go in, you can do configuration changes, you can set up the things that we were just setting up before. You could do motion, smart events, and things like that right through Oversee. So if you have some kind of issue going on at a home and you need to get in there remotely, this could save you a lot of time by using Oversee and not having to do a truck roll. So I just wanted to point that out, that this is in Oversee now, and it is video and things capabilities are accessible. So we got just like a minute or two left, so I think we can maybe open this up to a live Q&A session.
Yeah, so we have one question from Steve, who asked, sorry, my screen just, he said, do shared cameras in the app show up in the Clare panel?
Could you repeat that?
Do shared cameras in the app show up on the Clare panel?
Yeah, if the question is, can you have them showing on, say, a console, showing on a web UI, showing on the mobile app and in the Clare panel, and for that matter, showing up in a Control4 screen? The answer is yes. It will support multiple sessions out of a camera.
Great. And we encourage all attendees, if you have any questions, ask them now. We have one question. It says, do the ClareVision NVRs have expandable storage options?
Yeah, so the 4 and the 8 are single hard drive devices. The application that runs the NVR is not on that hard drive. So you could quite literally just take it out and put a larger drive in it and just replace it and format it. The 16 channel will support, it comes with one 4 terabyte drive mounted in it, and there is available space for 3 additional drives in the NVR for a total of 4.
Great. And another question, when viewing a camera full screen in the ClareVision app, is there a way to scroll to the next camera?
So our focus in the last 3 months has been on the NVRs and all of the sort of technical features in the camera, and that is that's one of the number one asks we have. We have an entire, I glossed over it quickly at the end. We have an entire roadmap for the mobile application, and we're going to be adding a lot of very cool features like that.
Great. Does the NVR show up on the panel with third-party cameras?
If you're going to do that, yes. So the short answer is yes, and there's a couple of ways to do it, and you might want to contact tech support before you pick one way or another, because there's some subtleties between them, but the answer is yes. Great.
And do you sell doorbell cameras?
We do. It's in our old ClareVision Plus product line. We are working on we aren't the greatest marketers in the world. We probably should have picked another name for the new line other than ClareVision. But in any event, in the new line that you saw today, we are aggressively working on a video doorbell that will be in line with this, with the smart features and all the capabilities of this line, and we're working on that aggressively. But we do sell a video doorbell today. It is in the ClareVision Plus product line, the legacy product line.
Another question. Can we P2P outside the country when connected to a VPN server in the country?
Yes.
Great. And one more question, it looks like, is there a web browser way to see multi-locations at one time?
I know which the answer, without opening ports and things of that nature, the answer is no. That's like a VMS application you're describing. We are looking at releasing a VMS kind of light app that will allow you to have a console in one location that will look at NVRs from multiple locations. We're looking at that. It's going to be Q1 before we release anything like that.
Gotcha. One last question just jumped up. Is there anything in development for Wi-Fi doorbell cameras?
Yeah, I just mentioned that we are aggressively working with the manufacturer that produced a majority of the products you just saw to be in line. It'll be in the capability set of the Performance Series line, as opposed to the value line. So you can look for things like package detection, things like that, built into the video doorbell camera. So this will be our third video doorbell in 5 years. I am painfully aware of all of the stumbling blocks of video doorbells and what a total pain in the backside they can be. So we're being very careful with this product as we develop it. It's a 2022 product, first half of 2022.
Gotcha. It looks like that's the end of our questions. Thank you so much, Brett and Jerry, for this great webinar. And we look forward to being here again next time. Thank you so much, and we'll see everyone next time.